The Sand Lane, otherwise known as the Dark Fallen, are a group of fallen blood elves whom act as ambassadors, overlords, and servants, in direct contact with the king of the undead himself. These vampiric scourge commanders are led by the three blood elf princes known as Taldaram, Keleseth, and Valanar, whom all answer to the Blood Queen herself, Lanathel. With the Sand Lane bound to unquestionable eternal servitude under the Lich King's command, the Scourge are uniform, due to the fact that they are controlled by the Blood Queen herself within the Crimson Halls. However, there was a time when the Sand Lane did not serve the Lich King loyally, without question. When Arthas Menethil embraced his fate as the traitor prince and the embodiment of death, he made his way to the crowned elven city known as quel'delar in order to resurrect a powerful necromancer named kael'thas. However, the only way to do this was to infuse the necromancer's remains within the Sunwell. After decimating the defenses of the revered elven city, Arthas was aided by a blood elf traitor who lowered the shields of the Sunwell, giving Arthas the opportunity to gain the upper hand, slaughtering the remaining blood elves and resurrecting kael'thas. With the destruction of the Sunwell, the remaining blood elves were scattered, confused, not knowing how to sate their lust for magic, or how to bring justice to the force of undeath that had rampaged their homes. Among many of the elves that demanded retribution with revenge was Lanathel. As she scoured the walls of quel'delar looking for additional survivors, she found a blade. Lying on the ground, even the simplest of creatures would know that the moment they laid their eyes on the blade, that they could see that it wielded immense power. The sword was named quel'delar, the Sister Blade, wielded by the Lorien Dawnseeker, whom was slain by the undead horde that rampaged the elven city. Soon, the perfect opportunity for retribution presented itself. Illidan was visited by an Eredar lord by the name of Kil'jaeden, who demanded that the Night Elf construct an army to defeat the Lich King and destroy the Frozen Throne within Northrend. Allied with Illidan were his left and right hand, Lady Vaj, who commanded the Naga, and Prince kael'thas, who promised his people safety and magic if only they would simply follow him. Lanathel took up her blade and immediately followed her prince into the icy depths of Northrend, seething with hate and bloodthirsty to see the traitor king dethroned. However, their offensive did not succeed. Ner'zhul realized what Illidan and his forces were trying to accomplish, and immediately called out to Arthas to return to the Frozen Throne. As the Blood Elves and the Naga continued to wage war against the Nerubians and the undead, a traitor king named Anubarak escorted Arthas to the Frozen Throne. Illidan, however, was aware of the Lich King's plan, and was waiting to engage Arthas. As the two engaged each other in a duel of blades, it finally ended when Arthas impaled Illidan with Frostmourne, with the false king savoring his victory and making his way atop the Frozen Throne. Illidan's forces were immediately dismantled and obliterated. The Scourge overwhelmed the Outland offensive, which resulted in Lady Vaj, Prince kael'thas, and Illidan, as well as their armies, all fleeing to their safe haven within Outland. By fleeing the icy land of Northrend, the Outland offensive forsook a remnant of the Blood Elf survivors that were left stranded on the frozen continent. Among these many survivors was Lanathel. As the undead abominations began to corner and eradicate the scattered survivors of the Outland offensive, so too was Lanathel cornered by Arthas. Realizing what the cold hand of fate had delivered onto her, she stood firm and ready to embrace the death and undeath itself. With yet another valiant soul claimed by Frostmourne, Lanathel was resurrected as an agent of undeath, loyal without question to her master, and existing solely to fulfill the wishes of her king. She was now known as the Blood Queen, and her first task was to locate and eradicate the remaining survivors of Illidan's army, her people. After converting many of her people to harbingers of death and chaos, she finally found the last remaining Blood Elf survivors, Taldaram, Keleseth, and Valanar. Like her, they fought to the bitter end, and like her, they were defeated. They were soon converted into agents of the undead scourge. Soon, all of the Blood Elves that had fallen during this war were to be known as the Sand Lane, or Dark Fallen, serving eternally under the command of the Lich King and commanding the forces of the undead throughout all of Azeroth. However, their task was not yet finished. The three princes were spread throughout the continent of Northrend to ensure stability within the Scourge Armada. Taldaram was stationed within Ahn'kahet, the fallen Nerubian kingdom, to confirm that the Nerubians were performing at an optimum capacity. Keleseth was stationed in Utgard Keep to oversee that the Vrykul remained loyal to the undead horde. Valanar resided within Naxanar, a floating necropolis that hovered over the Borean tundra and served as a choking point against the Northrend counteroffensive. And Lanathel resided within the Scourge stronghold of Icecrown Citadel, within the Crimson Halls. As the days passed and the war within the Frozen Wastes commenced, Lanathel was plagued every single day of the deeds that she had been forced to commit. The blade, quel'delar, was driving her mad. Every time she looked at it, she was consumed with fury, and yet could do nothing but forever carry out the deeds of the damned. Until the Champions of Light, led by High Lord Tyrion Fordring and the redeemed Death Knight Darion Morgraine, breached the defenses of the Citadel and battled their way through the walls of the Sand Lane, ultimately defeating all three Blood Princes and the Blood Queen herself.